Coming up on today's San Francisco 49ers Report by Chat Sports, I'm Chase Senior. We're going to open up the floor and do another mailbag segment here on the show as we hear from our loyal subscribers, our viewers, and our real ones. You have questions, I have answers. It's also an opportunity for you to share your football analysis, to share a hot take here on the show for thousands of people to see. First, I do want to say thank you to the faithful for supporting the show. This week, we surpassed 134,000 subscribers on the channel. To see the growth of the 49ers Report over the last couple of years as I enter year 4 as the host of this program has been incredible. I love talking Niners every single day. You make my job the best job in the world, and I mean that sincerely, so thank you so much. Let's start off here with this $50 super chat from Timothy Low World Johnson, certainly a big supporter of everything that we do. Can we sign Brandon Aiyuk this year, let Debo walk next year, and then address the offensive line next year? So that's a really good question as far as the Niners team building strategy. And when you look at the cap situation for San Francisco, they're not in a great spot next year. They are over the cap next year. And while they have a lot of cap space currently, things are a little bit hairy as far as their cap situation when you look ahead into the future. So I'm going to pull up the Niners cap numbers right now per over the cap. And San Francisco is currently 6th with $31.4 million in cap space. But in 2025, they are currently 30th as they are $38.9 million over the cap. Now, San Francisco can roll over the cap space from this year to next year. You also have to imagine, given the gaining popularity of the NFL, the salary cap is going to continue to rise, so that will alleviate things to a certain degree. And then there are ways to massage the cap. You can give out contract extensions. You can give out guaranteed money. You can restructure deals. Players can take pay cuts. You can cut players. You can trade players. But either way, I still think the Niners are going to have to make some difficult decisions down the road with some of the marquee, highly paid veterans who are currently on this team right now. And I just think that this year in 2024, and I've kind of maintained this, is going to be the quote-unquote last dance for San Francisco, because they're going to have to pay Brock Purdy. Hopefully they pay Brandon Aiyuk. And as the team gets a little bit older, the financial situation is a little bit of a question mark here, and the Niners are going to have to reset at least to a certain degree. This past offseason, we already saw one of those decisions made by releasing Eric Armstead, a multi-time team captain, a player widely respected by the fan base, the organization, and the locker room, Walter Payton Man of the Year nominee. And in that wide receiver room, look at what San Francisco has done. They drafted Ricky Pearsall in the first round. Later in the draft, they took Jacob Cowing. They extended Jawan Jennings. And if they extend Brandon Aiyuk, you would have to imagine Aiyuk, Cowing, Pearsall, Jennings. Those are 4 wide receivers who are for sure going to run it back in 2025. Where does that leave Debo Samuel? Debo Samuel's financial situation is also very interesting here, and I can pull up his cap numbers because it wouldn't make sense and never made sense for the Niners to move on from Debo this year. If he was a pre-June 1 cut, there would have been $26.4 million in dead money, $2.1 million in cap savings. Next year, pre-June 1, $15 million in dead money, $9 million in cap savings. But if the Niners were to move on from him next year, $6 million in dead money, $17.5 million in cap savings. So that would make some sense. And then there's the lack of guaranteed money that comes into play as part of the deal that Debo signed, where the Niners wouldn't have to eat all of that cash. So I think it's possible that the Niners could sign Aiyuk, let Debo walk next year by cutting him or trading him, and you're still in a really good spot with that wide receiver group, because the wide receiver room right now might be the deepest in the entire NFL. And of course, that could allow you to have some financial capital to address the offensive line. You could extend Aaron Banks. You could draft a right tackle. Dominic Pooney steps in at right guard, and we'll see what happens at center. Could Drake Nugent, as a UDFA this year, take over for Jake Brendel, and then you save some money by letting Jake Brendel go? Again, so many reasons and ways to free up some cap space if you're the Niners. No Santana, $2 super chat. If Brandon Aiyuk does not sign, where does he end up? Well, on the Pivot podcast last week, Aiyuk said himself, when he was asked, if you didn't come back to the Niners, where would you go? Where would you be traded? He said, the Washington Commanders, to play with that guy, and he pointed to Jaden Daniels, who he's best friends with, talks to every day. They played with one another at Arizona State. And then he also mentioned the Pittsburgh Steelers. Aiyuk early this offseason tweeted directly at Mike Tomlin, and they've been going heavy after wide receivers because they have George Pickens. They have Roman Wilson, who they drafted, who's more of a slot guy. They're looking for an outside boundary wide receiver after they traded away Deontay Johnson. So I look at the Commanders and the Steelers as two teams who could be in the market for Aiyuk because he said as much. Tanyan Zhu with this one. So do you think that the franchise is setting Aiyuk up just to get us to say he can go so that they don't have to pay him? I see what you're saying. It's always important to control the narrative, to do some damage control, to maybe put some leaks out to the media so that they make it seem as a situation is one thing or another, so that the fan base could kind of side with you and you could do damage control by saying, we wanted Aiyuk, we offered him a deal, but he was asking for too much. We simply couldn't afford him any longer. We really tried to sign Brandon Aiyuk. We said we wanted him back. We wanted him as a member of this organization, but he wasn't willing to come off that number, and because of that, we had to move on. I think the Niners really do value Aiyuk. They want him around, but they want him around at his price. And if Aiyuk is asking for $30 million per year, considering the Niners run the football a lot, and they spread the football around with all of the weapons on this team, they might not be able to afford or want to pay a wide receiver $30 million per year who's going to make $70, $80, $90 million in guaranteed money when they know that it's a run-centric offense and they have a lot of marquee players on the offensive side of the ball and a lot of mouths to feed. Jesse Wade, why not just sign Justin Simmons to solidify the safety position, rather use the future capital? If I'm the Niners, I would look at Justin Simmons as a viable free agent target, and he's probably the best player left on the market. I know he's on the wrong side of 30, but he was a second-team All-Pro last year. He's still playing at a really high level. He's a four-time second-team All-Pro in this league. He leads the NFL in interceptions since he was drafted by Denver a few years ago. He's a multi-time team captain. He's very respected. He's played in Vic Fangio style of defenses. He can master the Seattle scheme as well. He's that ball hawk who could play deep center field safety, who can really take care of things on the back end as far as coverage goes. And then you can utilize Jair Brown and Talanoa Hufanga in versatile ways, which maximizes their abilities as well-rounded players who like to make plays around the line of scrimmage, play a little hybrid linebacker. They like to blitz the quarterback a little bit, get active play against the run, and that's fine because then you know you have Justin Simmons on that back end. Right now, you have Jair Brown, Talanoa Hufanga as your starting safeties, but Hufanga's coming off the torn ACL. As your backups right now, you have Malik Mustafa, who you drafted, but is a rookie, and then you have George Odom, solid special teamer, one of the best special teamers in the NFL, in fact, but as a coverage safety, there's a reason he's a special teamer, right? So I would make that position group better. I would make it deeper. Justin Simmons is going to come at an affordable rate. According to a lot of the chatter, he wants to go to a team where he can win after not being able to win with Denver. Niners seem like a really good destination for him. Trace Lucero. Jake Moody made some mistakes in the Super Bowl and in games like the Browns game, but he looked good in the playoffs and hasn't had much experience. Will he get better, or should we trade him? I'm going to just say right from the jump, you're not going to trade Jake Moody because he's not going to have much of a market. If you do, it would be for a late round pick. But I'm actually high on Jake Moody going into year 2. Has a big leg, hit some clutch kicks last year. I was able to see some mental fortitude from the kid after a really, really shaky preseason in which he missed chip shots. He got iced by the fraud Josh McDaniels, who got fired by the Raiders several weeks later and not looking good at all. He had a couple of really big kicks throughout the regular season and in the playoffs. And I know that he missed that kick against the Browns that would have given the Niners the win and a 13th win potentially in the regular season. He had the extra point blocked, which cost the Niners certainly and could have won them the game. But Jake Moody was also 60 of 61 on extra points. He was 21 of 25 on field goals. In the Super Bowl, he drilled 2 50-plus yard kicks. So I know that he got the extra point blocked, and that was costly, right? He was also really clutch by knocking through those 2 field goals. So I liked the big leg. He was very clutch at Michigan. I liked how he mentally rebounded and was able to have some mental fortitude, which you need as a kicker. I'm willing to ride it out with him going into year 2, and with more experience, things can slow down and he can get a little bit better. Make sure you subscribe to us here on the San Francisco 49ers Report so that you can be a part of our mailbag segments. I always like chopping it up with the faithful here on the show.